Yeah, sometimes when it's recorded, maybe it doesn't get as intimate.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like immediately right into the kind of the meat of the conversation. Not that I know where this conversation will go, but
Yeah,
a
it's like
meaty
what you're.
subject.
Yeah, I guess it's. I guess that's what you've been thinking about. It's like,
Definitely part of it. Yeah.
yeah. So what did you want to talk about?
I didn't really have anything in particular in mind. Um I did write some things though. I wrote some notes because I've been keeping up with your videos and such. And it's been a while since we've spoken.
It has
A
been.
lot of water under the bridge, like in many regards.
Yeah. How's life on your end?
All right. Um, it's hard to say. Always, there's um, always like I feel like sometimes um, like when there's like extremes, I feel like things happen extremely to me sometimes. Like where you know, my highs will be extremely high and my lows will be extremely low type of thing. I'm reminded of Jordan Peterson saying something about how that's not good at all. But
How often does
but
it switch like that? How long does it last?
well, I mean, it's always circumstantial. I think it's kind of
I
like
get you.
I think it's all I don't know. It's hard to speak about yourself, because you can't really see yourself very clearly a lot of times. But I don't know. I think partially it's that it's kind of like whimsy maxing, like what
Whimsy maxing.
yeah, are you
I
familiar?
don't. No, I don't know
Okay, yeah.
that.
So a this is something coined by meme analysis on YouTube. Are you familiar with him?
No, I'm not.
Okay, yeah. So he does he's a very interesting guy. On YouTube, he does a lot of really interesting stuff. And it's like being whimsical, like living to the fullest, like embracing the um the romantic aspect of, getting lost in life almost. And he interestingly
It's
points out
it's
the dangers of this.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It seems like you could get carried away by the environment you're in and the people you're with,
Yeah,
right?
for
So you're
sure.
gonna
Yeah.
be influenced. Yeah, you'll be susceptible to influence.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it also reminds me of I think it was either Ram Dass or Alan Watts. I think it was Alan Watts who said some story of some he was talking with some like Eastern mystic or something or somebody who's in that whole sphere. And it was a letter that said something like I've decided to abandon my um restrictions essentially, and just to completely let my heart be broken, to have as many deep relationships as possible, even though it'll break my heart in the end, to immerse yourself in the pleasures of life, to be fully attached, even though usually Eastern is about like leaving attachment. And I think it's interesting, I think, but it's definitely, the dangers of whimsy maxing are definitely, he calls them morbs, like morbidities, like moroseness. I have a video about it I posted a clip of it. And
What was it? What was the title on that one?
whimsy versus morbs. It's one of my
Okay,
favorites, to be honest.
okay. I'll pull it up in my
Yeah.
tab so that I have it. Let's
Yeah.
see.
So I don't know. That's kind of how I've been. It's like it's a wild world, but generally, all right.
I see the
How about you?
divination and madness. Let's see if I can find the whimsy versus orbs. Whimsy is what is that? Whimsy?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Okay, whimsy versus morbs. Okay, I found it. Um,
it's very odd. I know I've already gone into all this, but this whole techno communication thing is very odd. I think I'm just like, I think about it a lot. So I complain about it more than most or something.
Yeah,
But it's, I don't mean to complain and stuff. It's more
but
so just like
you might be
it
just
really
you might be
gets to
hungry
me.
for a certain thing. I was in that stream that I was in. It occurred to me, it's like there's things you can do here that you can't do. You know, you can do things in person that you can't do here, but there are
Yeah,
things you can do here.
there is a certain way where it like affords kind of more, when you're in person, there's a danger of physical combat, like, and there's also,
Well, there's dangers and opportunities,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. No, no,
Yeah.
no. Trust me, I'm
It's
not
like
trying to,
if I tried to be
yeah,
a husband and a father with my children over Zoom, that would be
yeah,
difficult.
certainly. Yeah, I'm not trying to like put it above the digital stuff by any means, but it is interesting to think about how like it's kind of like when people get drunk. It's like if you have a little drink of wine, it removes your some of your social inhibitions. I think definitely think the internet can
Yeah.
provide something like that, but
Yeah. Some kind of
ultimately I'm still not a fan.
a confidence, like you might have a confidence behind a screen,
Yeah,
but when you're in person, when you meet someone in person, it's different.
yeah, yeah,
I've recently was considering status, like and how people act um based on status.
yeah.
And I think I had made a comment like that I'm not as impacted by status as I was. But then as soon as I said that, that next day I'm in a meeting with my boss and I noticed it's like, oh, here's some status playing out. I have this guy who can fire me, you know.
Well, it reminds me of Jordan Peterson talking about the lobsters, right? It's like that's just deep in our being, like the with the serotonin, putting yourself in the hierarchy and stuff, right? Like yeah,
Well, it's got to be connected to your goals though. Like like I don't feel as
yeah,
much
that's true. Yeah, because
there was
it,
this
yeah.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a status like I've noticed a status thing where I would like maybe get nervous around Paul Vanderklay, for example.
Hmm.
But now I don't really feel nervous around him.
Hmm.
And like I was in a live stream with him the other day and I didn't feel nervous. And that
Hmm.
was I just noticed that. And I think it's because I was wanting like to be king. I was wanting to be popular. And so status on the internet was important to me.
Hmm.
Right. And so then I realized this potential of status gain and status loss. There was some kind of a game that I was even participating in subconsciously. And so similar, I could turn that and look back at my work. And it's like I still have some goals like, I have a nice house. Life is comfortable. This job is actually a nice job. I tried to write down what kind of job I'd want, and it's a pretty good job that I'm at. So there is a thing there is like, do I fear losing my job? Right. So, but yeah, I mean, I have a wife and children, and there's all kinds of things connected to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, status. I just wanted to point out that yeah, like when you're like if you like, I feel like now that Jesus is my king, instead of me trying to be king, I no longer get nervous around Paul Vanderklay.
Yeah, there's something, well, I think this is really interesting. Like this is a really, really salient thing to me, which is that how we, you know, the impressions of others and stuff like that, right? And I think this is like I think that's a really great, thing that you bring up.
That's what happens when we hit the
Yeah.
record button, though. I think like
Yeah, yeah, we become
the
aware that we're being watched,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
This is potential thing that could influence my status, or something
Yeah, yeah,
like that,
yeah,
or
yeah.
and my
Well,
goals of
yeah,
wanting to be king or
yeah,
wanting
yeah.
to allow Jesus to be king or whatever the goal
Yeah, so
is,
yeah, man. I think the thing with Christ is that like um it's the vertical and the horizontal. That's like how I think about this, where it's like this relational status game is like this, and then there's like the moving towards your individuated self hierarchy, like union with Christ, embodiment of the logos dimension. And it's like when we prioritize the horizontal, it's not good. It's like we lean out and we fall, and like, and but when we're rooted in the vertical and that is our primary thing, it's like our status and our serotonin comes from how connected with God we are, and it's like how one with God we are. And as far as I experience it, like this is how I've been thinking about it. And I don't mean to claim that I like have this, balance perfectly by any means. But then that becomes like there's almost like a sense of security is the wrong word because it's too like strict in my mind, but it's like there's a rootedness where it's like you won't be pushed by these horizontal things. My sister's calling me. Hold up.
Yeah,
I'll be
no
right
problem.
back.
I'll pause it.
Yeah.
When you were talking about vertical and horizontal, in my mind, my mind goes into the physical world, and it's like if I want to go anywhere, if I want to move, I have to start going into the horizontal if I want to move. But then it occurs to me as well that there's a spiritual world as well. So it's um, when you become rooted at any point, it's like it could become the case that there's nothing changing, which might be like a good place to be at a certain time.
Hmm. Yeah.
Maybe you can retreat into that,
Hmm.
but it doesn't mean that you just should be retreated your entire life.
No,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, I agree.
so
But
but you said primary, like go that vertical dimension primary. I like that, but
mhm.
it doesn't mean that you ignore the horizontal either.
No, 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 for
Right,
sure.
right. I just wanted
Yeah.
to make that clear. Like
Yeah,
that's
no,
kind
I
of
think that's a
yeah.
good thing to add. One thing that's interesting though is like there's a there's like the vertical principle and like then there's like um like actual when we see like I don't know what words to use, but like staying in one place, like actually being totally vertical. It's like that's why you see like monks and stuff who like don't go anywhere. And I also think it's you can see this in like the horizontal nature of our time period, as we approach the confrontation with Lucifer. Um, that it's all horizontal. It's all cars everywhere. It's like we're all spread out. There's no localism. It's no concentration. And um, but in terms of like this, I'm reminded of like this whole idea of like the divine Aquarian individual who is like autonomous in a way. And there's something where I connect that with like the idea of like the Holy Spirit is available to everyone, where it's like there's a certain thing where you can travel with your vertical rootedness without like having to stay in one place and like to be in yourself and to be at home everywhere or something like that. And it's like there's something very salient about that to me because I've throughout my whole life I've had the issues with like you know kowtowing to other people for whatever reasons. It's that seems like one of those things where it's like deep psychology stuff that is hard to speak about. But
I mean,
this is
I've
what
had
I've
similar experiences,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I
I
can.
feel like especially a lot of guys have because when it comes to um the ladies, it's like uh do we perform confidence or do we be confident? And it's like is this how we want to what is like to be in to have integrity is like true confidence. It's when you can confide in yourself and like um but like it's so performative nowadays, that it's yeah, so that's something I struggle. But this whole idea of like the vertical and the horizontal has been like super helpful for me, at least when I can remember it. So remember God, that's always what it is.
Yeah, I was encouraged to like I'd always kind of like laughed at the Lord's Prayer, which I like to call the King's Prayer. They I kind of laughed at it because right before he said the prayer, he's like, don't something like don't repeat your just say your many words like the heathens, something like that, and repeat yourself. And it's like, and then I watch everyone pray, and it's like it seemed like they were doing the exact same thing that he was warning against, but it was but now I kind of have this view. It's like you don't have to there's something internal about it, or there should be something internal about it, so that it's not performative.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so you can walk through like so if I feel pride if I feel this thing where I'm starting to um, look down on others, I
Mhm,
can then say, "Lead me not into temptation." You know,
mhm,
um, but yeah, there's that. It's kind of a reminder. It's even and it's a constant prayer. But yeah, that's remembering God. There's a that seems relevant. That's kind of what I've been doing recently in the last week or so. I've been trying
mhm.
to. I've been saying the Lord's Prayer. It's weird. I used to
Yeah,
laugh, make fun of people who did that, but
I'm not
now
for
I know
I'm
it.
not yeah. I'm not I'm not like actually super familiar with the gospels and stuff like this.
Yeah,
Um um I'm not like even familiar with that line that you mentioned of what Grace said before. I don't remember even what you
it's a
said.
good. It's. I mean, the Gospels are pretty good.
Mhm.
I read the Gospels three or
So-
four times.
yeah, Gavin certified.
When I was but when I first started reading them, I didn't like John. I like Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They seem pretty
Mhm.
good, and I rejected a little the end of Mark. But
Yeah,
yeah,
this is actually,
I like
yeah.
John now. John's pretty good.
Yeah, I should really uh do that more. Like as I kind of said, I kind of came to all Christianity stuff through the back door or something, or through the side door. I don't know, where it's like I didn't go through the traditional means.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's kind of like at one point I realized like, oh yes, the Bible is definitely super good, but I haven't really gotten around to like actually digging in.
Well, they in church yesterday. They asked me. They said, "Did you believe the Bible is inerrant?" And I was with two other guys. I'm like, "See, I can't say yes to this. I want to say maybe. I don't want to say no, but there." So I hit no. They
Mhm.
only gave me two options:
There
yes or
wasn't a
no.
maybe. Yeah.
There was no maybe. Um, or I don't know would be a good one.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and I told him it's like I haven't read the whole Bible, So,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I I've enjoyed. I mean, that's a good place to start if you ever get into it. Matthew's a good one to start at.
Hmm. Yeah. I hear a lot of, I'm familiar with some of it. Like I went to catechism and stuff and all that, but um,
So catechism is like a training, uh, a
or
learning, a
I might
school.
have that. Yeah. No, catechism is when you're learning to be confirmed into the church. So my parents, like my mother was insistent that I become confirmed. And I did that. I'm grateful looking back, but at the time I was like, this is fucking a waste of my Sunday morning, But um, yeah, untrue. And as far as I can tell. Uh, so yeah, I learned a bunch of that stuff, but I haven't like really properly read the Bible. And this is actually when I made the video about Christ's ministry, the astrology one. Um, I
I'll
didn't
put
put
it.
Pentecost at the end, and um, partially because I was like, all right, there's more significant dates after the crucifixion and the ascension and stuff, and I should perhaps consider that. So part of it was that I just was like, all right, nothing else after the ascension. Um, and then the other part was that I just didn't like know. I didn't like, I would probably know like in a non-direct way if it came up or something, but yeah, so
I'm
kind
gonna
of
make sure.
embarrassing.
I'm gonna make sure I watch that one.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, October 18th. I was deep into stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time not paying attention to the internet. Actually,
Yeah,
I
I think
didn't.
I remember you saying something about that in one of your videos that you took a break and stuff.
Yeah, I stepped away. Uh, Went and smelled the fungus in the forest. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like you can get. Um, I feel it's even sometimes like I'll go looking for something. That's the like just notice when you go looking for something, and it's like, is this the place where I should be looking for this thing
What
that
do you mean, like information online?
I'll feel. a desire just to
Oh,
go
okay. Yeah, yeah,
look.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it's like some people might go to the refrigerator or the freezer, or
yeah.
the
Hmm.
go get some candy, or go get a
Hmm.
beer, or
Yeah, I think that's a
you go
good. Yeah,
scrolling, or it's like
yeah.
you just are looking for something to just because you're not satisfied, right? There's a
Hmm.
And so yeah, I was I guess I
Yeah.
got to watch it. I think it's
I,
something to watch out for.
yeah.
And
I
if you're not
mean,
satisfied, it's like, well, why not? What's
yeah, I'm
missing?
reminded of like the meaning crisis and stuff, and like the whole death of God idea. And it's like all these people trying to make politics their religion and stuff like that, and then like LARPing like in a non-appropriate way.
You
And
you don't have peace when you're
yeah.
going to some place for something. When you have peace, you're satisfied. Like I'm probably like that monk, that's just in that place and not moving. It's like there's a satisfaction. It's my
Hmm.
peace, joy, love, just kind of melting in it. Why go look for anything when you've got it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's also like the whole, yeah, man, I vibe with that.
I mean, I do it. I did it today. I went looking on the phone for something. It's
Or I
not
think I'm
it's not like
confused
I have it
about
figured out.
I'm confused about what you're I think we might have misunderstood each other. You're talking about were you talking about like looking for something online, or like when you were looking to like take your time off of, like that's why you took the time off?
I think taking the time off, it helped me to break a habit of going and just consuming content, looking for something
Gotcha.
in the content. So when I was in the woods scraping pine straw, that's what I was doing. I was collecting pine straw out of a forest with pine trees for landscaping. And as I moved the pine straw, it exposes my cilial networks, and I could smell it. And it's like, and I could have had something in my ear listening to it,
Hmm.
but I didn't. So I
Nice.
did that for a while, and it started occurring to me. It's like, well, if you're looking for God, would you find it on your through your device? Right? That's like
Hmm.
that's the kind of thought that started happening,
Yeah.
a couple months ago, 3 months ago.
Yeah. Interesting. I misheard you originally that like you felt like you were looking for something and like all of a sudden you feel compelled to go away from the internet, like where like you hear the voice of God being like, turn off your computer. It's
Well, so I think that the compulsions, anytime if you can notice compulsions, I think you should be suspicious of those.
yeah.
So that you were talking about earlier, this being the whimsy of being attached to things. Um, it sounds very similar to compulsion. It sounds very dangerous.
Well, yeah, but I mean without it, it's no imagination and no youthful joy, and it's like no uh getting lost. It's like it's good to get lost every once in a while. Everybody thinks, because if you haven't got lost in a while, you're probably lost and you just don't realize it. Like or something. I think it helps. I don't know. So
I
many
feel like
thoughts though. So many thoughts. Like
well, I feel like there's like like how they'll say that such and such drug, cannabis, is a gateway drug or something like that. Like I think there's something like a gateway into a spiritual dimension, and so I do think it's
yeah. I mean,
you're
well,
getting into dangerous territory in that spiritual
mhm,
dimension. It's not just like
for
it's not
sure.
all safe.
Yeah, man.
It's
Yeah, the video on my channel about inflation is exactly this. It's like when you confront when you encounter this dimension, it's not just like I remember in a conversation with you, it's like, or I don't remember if it was someone with you, it's like how initially I was like thrown overboard into waves, and it's like incoherent waves. It's like the waves have a coherence and stuff, and like you can learn to discern like the different aspects of the spiritual reality, and like the agencies that are at play, but at first it's like without that discernment and that like you know the yeah, I think discernment's the best word to like counterbalance your whimsy. you know then
well,
it can be very distressing, very much so. So
Well,
but the other thing I want to say though is that you said finding God through the computer, and it is an interesting thing for me because it's like I definitely feel what you're saying there, and I'm like I think that's correct, but at the same time I kind of found God, or I like realized that God was what I was talking about because of the computer, which I think is like I started with like Terrence McKenna, Alan Watts, and then Jordan Peterson starts talking about Christianity, and then it's like, oh yes. So
well,
it's
it's
interesting.
I think it goes back to like our kind of our first interaction and that you had the video with Luke and we're talking about like something being real and we talked about I just remember there's a question like I'm thinking of like a book and is there what is embodied in that book or what's embodied in this thing that doesn't necessarily seem to be alive and like even the words like every there's something like I think these things can are and I've heard this word from Tyler is indexical like words are indexical like it's pointing um yeah when we encounter a word when we encounter like books the like the there's a limit to what we can actually uh, how we will receive those words and it's where am I going with this I
Feel free
think
to
I'm
take
just
your time, because this is very interesting and like numerous. And
well yeah so if we go onto the internet I listen to McKenna and Watts and I've done a lot of internet I talk
Mhm.
about it like it's a drug
Yeah.
I've done a lot of science fiction um I've loved it's been very enjoyable
Mhm.
um
Mhm.
I think ultimately though it's got to end up pointing towards a way of being that it it's not just like reading or consuming content it's like even it's more like a dance so um
Yeah,
maybe
well,
there
please elaborate. Yeah.
well I'm wondering is can you yeah maybe there's a way to go consume content which is have you heard rote learning like rote memorization
I feel like I've heard the word, but like
rote
I'm not
or
sure.
so yeah there's a way of consuming content in which you might and I think Jordan Peterson has talked about this like you might end up just repeating things that you've heard
Yeah,
instead
definitional
of like
knowing is what is I think what Luke would say.
okay
It's
yeah
like like this idea that like words are I don't understand exactly what he means by it. I haven't heard him talk about it enough, but I in the video on my channel, the Open Circle 5, which is the one where he's talking about this, it's all this idea that like words have I'm gonna butcher it if I try and describe his idea here. Um, but yeah, sorry for interrupting there.
no I mean but I'm trying to point at this thing um so we there's a way of like I think Gringers when he talks about breaking through the fourth wall as well it's like there's a way of consuming content in which you're just like a consumer
Mhm.
um and you might not even be processing it well you might even be processing it in a way where there's delusions all up in here and you're very confused you can go to college and come out of it and know less than you knew when you went in um, and then even you could come out feeling like you are smarter even though you're not so like there's a way of interacting with these things uh, which is uh which is unhealthy which isn't
Yeah,
good
yeah, man.
uh, so, and I get maybe it's me personally, or maybe it's everyone is at risk to it. But that's kind of yeah. There's I'll have a I know I've done it in the past. Um, and I guess I'm trying to learn how to. I mean, I'm trying to learn how to love the author, for example. That's one way of putting it. Like when I read the Bible, I'm trying to love the author. Um, which is different than just allowing the words to create this world in which I'm like on a roller coaster and I'm seeing things and things are happening. That's different than, trying to connect with the character or connect with the author who created these characters. The one is deeper.
Hmm.
Like there's a way of knowing there
Hmm.
that's different than just like there's multiple ways of knowing when you encounter these words, and
Yeah,
some of them are like eating junk food and just aren't as healthy,
for
not as
sure.
good.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
can't
man.
I can't tell if people are when people are doing it or not, but I can tell when I can begin to notice when I'm doing it, and it's connected to love. I'm starting to get better at loving, at being a loving person and loving people, but it's been helpful to try and love people.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I went
man.
38
That
years
reminds
without
me.
love and was consuming all
Well,
this
nobody
content,
exists without love. I'm sure there was.
Well,
I
I
remember
mean,
you
there was
said this
kinds of
reminds me of
love.
some of my notes from your one of your videos. Sorry.
Yeah.
Um, one of them was I remember there's moments where, like you said, there will be occasional moments where of like God shines through, in a moment of love, and I think it's really beautiful, and it also made me think about um, this idea of meta temporality or something, where it's like each of those moments, it's like that's a moment where things line up, and then you get connected or something, or like the connection happens, and it's like those moments you can you were talking about extending the moments, right? And it's like extending those moments so that
Right.
they happen longer, and it's like this is it's like that's when the eschaton or something is like that's when you are in relationship with it or something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're tracking, like because I'm not articulating it very well, but I think that that's kind of what's up. It's like to make those moments where we're unifying heaven and earth. Sorry, like to make those longer and like yeah.
Well, one I like the image of something like a wave pool, and then you can have a surfer who's on a wave, and if you can attempt to ride a wave at the highest point, but you can fall off a wave. You
Hmm.
can come down it. You can maybe do flips, but yeah, that's how I look at it. And, you know, at some point in my life, I thought I was good at avoiding those low points, like spiritually or emotionally. And I think I'm at a high point. But then even when you're at a high point, you don't really know how high that wave can get. It's like how much higher can you get on that wave?
Yeah,
And so when you talk about like the whimsy, it's like
yeah, man.
that's what I'm, it's nice to try and like you got to figure out what you want, if you
Hmm.
want to be able to go into those low points.
Yeah,
That's
it's kind of
you
like
do
I want to
you,
just
yeah.
ride the wave like really well and like very uh hard is the wrong word. I don't know, but like to really ride that wave, because it's
Yeah.
like that's where we experience the real, and it's like that's when we experience I don't know, that's when life shines with beauty and vividness and veracity and vitality, and it's like to really, and it's like all the negative emotions, it's like to plunge into them and really feel them, and you know like when you fall in love, to really lose yourself in love, and to like completely uh um fantasize and stuff. Obviously this can create
Well,
issues.
I mean, I think you can get what you want, if that's what you want. There's
Mhm.
but
Well,
there
I
are
mean,
some
like I
pits,
think
there are some pits.
there's something divine about it. It's something like that's when it's like we're really vibrating with life. It's not We're not just like tuning it out.
I just,
Because
those,
that, oh wait, one more
yeah,
thing.
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
It's the when you're talking about oh man, I might lose it. When uh gosh, when oh yes. Okay, so when another reason why I think, remember I mentioned when you're like when it comes to like guys being authentic and stuff like that, and with um it all connects, man. Everything we're talking about connects, and like the true words and stuff like that. And another thing is that we inhibit our emotions. You know, like this is a very Irish Catholic thing, as far as I understand via my own lineage, but with great love for my father. Please don't take up the wrong way. Yeah, and um, but it's like to not feel the emotions and to not show the emotions, and to like the person who truly feels is like we look at them and we say what's wrong with them, you know and as far as I can tell. And I think that's part of it as well, is like censoring yourself. And we see this more and more now with fucking masks, and like is the epitome, is the that is what you're seeing. It's like, you know so all this
It's an interesting
and
point.
thought policing, like this is the same thing.
You can, I know that
Although
also.
the type of thought policing that you were kind of talking about with the seal of God's advice, I can see where you're going with that.
I'm not. I wasn't going. I wasn't going to go there. I was going to go stay in the realm of like powers and principalities and the wave riding, and the
so
um,
much
ex,
salient stuff, man, like that.
ex,
Yeah.
but what's interesting is like, so you mentioned something there about expressing your emotions. Well, and so it reminded me of a loved one who had said something similar. And then you went to, wearing the mask, but then this loved one who says and things like that would then, advocate for a mask, right? So, and then that's all connected to powers and principalities and and
Yeah, and
wave riding,
censorship and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
But but there's another thing I wanted to point out is that some of this is some of this is beyond our control. These powers and principalities are pretty powerful. Uh, so like, there's something about getting up on a wave, which I would be like, maybe it feels like humming with peace and love and joy. There's fruit of the Holy Spirit. Not knowing how much more you can go higher at any point, and um, but then it wasn't you who did it. That's the thing that's interesting. It's like I didn't do it. Um, and so I think that happens whether you can go into pits and you can go up on waves. And so that's where it's like the strange thing is like uh, deciding to practice, committing my life to Jesus as my king who wants to go out and save all the lost sheep and wants to love your worst enemy, like and taking that seriously and saying, yeah, that's a good idea. Name a better idea, right? Um,
Yeah,
then
man.
all of a sudden there's something happens where I'm up higher on this wave. I've been playing in this little area down here in like the kiddie pool,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden it's like I'm feeling something pull me up, and it's like it's very strange. But I
Mhm.
would say that I think it can this maybe the Satan or the Antichrist or whatever can pull you down in the other direction. So it's a dangerous game, but it's wonderful that there's a helper.
Yeah, man.
Like it might be a mistake to think that it probably is. Seems like it is. It's a mistake to think that any one person could do it on their own. But I don't know what those monks are feeling. The Buddhist monk. I don't know what they're
Mhm.
feeling. That's why I have to bring it back around. It's like it would be cool to throw a mind reading instrument on them. It's like, are they feeling the peace and joy and love that I'm feeling right now? It's like maybe they're feeling way more than I am. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah. The
I
word
know
that's
what I'm feeling is
ringing.
good. That's
Yeah,
really
yeah, man. The word that's ringing in my mind is participation and participatory knowing. Like, remember you were talking about different ways of knowing. Like because it's not something you do, but it's also not something that just happens to you. It's like kind of have to like set the logs up in the right way on the fire, and then it catches or something. And it's like that participation with it's like participating. If we think about the logos as like the wave that is like fundamentally underlying everything, then it's like um to harmonize with that wave is a participatory thing, where it's it's like you can't sing your own music, but you also can't ignore the music that's like, I mean, you can't I'm gonna stumble for words here, but I think you get what I'm saying. It's like it's something that is partially, it's like a dance, like you said, it's like to um you hear the music and you dance, and uh the participation also extends into like it kind of, it doesn't just apply with our individual. It's like, how do we participate with uh the logos, or like the pattern of reality or something, or how do we harmonize with God? um it's like, to do that, I think ultimately, like, you can do that on your own to a certain degree, and like, I think of the monks and stuff, but even the monks, are in fellowship, the ecclesia. And I think this is churches, it's like going into church and participating as a larger body. It's like, that's when it really gets interesting. And I think that, uh, yeah, the heights of that are tremendous, like, in the true sense. It's like, wow, like, who knows how high this can go. And yeah,
Well,
and it's, yeah,
you
but you got to
won't
be
know
careful,
it.
like you said, because it's like the whimsy can,
But there's the lows too,
yeah,
and
yeah, even there, yeah,
you won't know it until you experience it. So you don't know how much lower you can go or how much higher you can go unless you've experienced it. And then you don't necessarily know it. Then it's kind of like hard. It's like, how do people communicate about this thing that can only be experienced, right? Like we try to use words and books and create content. It's like it's
yeah, yeah, indeed. I mean, the amount of things that come to mind is just very overwhelming. To be honest, it's like so much
but I
comes to
think
mind when you say that.
I think what's key there is really figuring out what you want, trying to be honest. I mean, I wanted like I was trying to be honest and know what I want for a long time, and I managed to get what I want. And it's like maybe people are getting what they want and not being honest about it, what they really want. But like sometimes people want revenge and they want to go out and fight. And they want to, you know, a lot of people are doing exactly what they want. Not to say, there's people who, like I got a nephew who died before his first birthday, and I don't think he necessarily got what he wanted. Maybe in a previous life, or maybe he chose that life somehow. But a lot of people are getting what they want. So I think it's I think it's good to notice what you want. Notice how you want people to treat you. Notice, like, you could have a curiosity it's like a and a I don't know, an invitation to allow God. That's where I started. God and the Holy Spirit is where I went next, and then Jesus was like the third step to um and then along each step, just an invitation is to allow them to show you an experience that you've never had, that would then allow you to kind of have a more knowing, have more knowledge, that experiential knowledge, such that it could be used for the ultimate good. In that regard, sometimes going down into a pit, like it doesn't mean it's bad to go down there. Um, I
For
think at
sure.
one point I was wrestling. I was like telling myself, it's like I'm sparring with these demons. Uh, it's I'm getting tough. It's good for me. You know, but eventually it's like, do I really want to just do that if it's unnecessary? At one point I did hear the voice. So like I heard a voice say, it's like, I don't need you. And it was actually very relieving to me to like have this realization, like the elitism I had where I thought I was so special, um, to be told that I don't need you, and to know that God can use anyone and anything was just so relieving. Like, and what an amazing God, right? Like, wow, like the God that can use anyone and anything is way better than the God who um, would only use special people, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I'm reminded of the book of Job, where he says, I see that you can do all things. And yeah, just talking about that, and just talking about how, um, it's like, it's almost like, yeah, it's not my will, but thy will, thy will be done. And it's like, to see that it's kind of God, uh, his uh you know the natural order is God's will, and it's like I don't know, it's very hard to speak about.
Well, so yeah, to have been given like when I'd had a dream before children, and it was very meaningful where I'd met angels, protective angels, and was given a ride, and it was the most meaningful experience. And I ended up in an airport, and then this young girl, I wonder if it was like a vision of my future daughter. She comes up and gives me this hug, and it was the first time I'd ever felt unconditional love. And I thought I'm doing research back then, thinking it's like what was it in Buddhism? They call it nirvana. I was like, I felt it. I know it. Nirvana is like, it's real, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and then years later, I held my firstborn and I felt it again. And I was like, whoa, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. And, and then
Yeah,
now
man.
that's what I'm feeling just more often, more regularly.
Yeah.
And it's like, but how people who have never, so I know what it's like to have, been in a desert of unconditional love, experiencing unconditional love. There was many, it's just it was very dry, very scarce, the amount of unconditional love that that I got to experience. So I don't know. Yeah, I wish there was some way to communicate it, and maybe the way you communicate it is through action. Uh, maybe God can put you in a place where you get to embody it, where people say, "Whoa." I heard a story about a guy who, um, I think his dad was killed uh, in a bar. He was in a bar and his dad got killed, and the son ended up like it really hit him hard for a while. I think the murderer, ended up in jail, but and was there for a while. But the son ended up learning to forgive him, learning about this unconditional love thing, and ended up going to the court for like a because I think there was going to be a decision about whether the murderer would be released or not, and um, the son said we should let him go, and the judge said, well, what are we going to do with him? And he said he can come live with me. And so that's the way you express unconditional love, right? And it's through like an action kind of thing there. And then meanwhile, like who wants to have to go through that, right? Who wants to have to go through that to be given the opportunity to do that? It's kind of like a Jesus thing. Like, what did Jesus do? Who wants to be tortured and put up on a cross and then have that opportunity to forgive everyone doing it to him, right?
Only the fool would want such a thing. Yeah, but to be foolish, like
So
that's what whimsy acting. It's like I hear you.
I wish the prayer would be that, man, the thing that God did for me. It's like why can't everybody get it? You know, and then that's
Yeah,
kind of
man.
my faith is
Yeah.
the mustard seed is that it's available. We got to figure out how to
Yeah.
let people taste it.
Yeah, man. For real. Like that's what's up. Very well said. Yeah, it's like how do we yeah, I
for
mean,
for me,
the
that's the
school.
logos. Like
Yeah.
that's the divine expression. You know,
Yeah,
it's a dancing type of thing.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
The guy in the court had to say those words, but he was doing more than just saying words. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think
that wrecked me. I have snot running out of my sinus cavities, and my
yeah,
eyes are
man.
leaking.
Yeah,
It's like
man.
it
I know
wrecks me.
you've been watching like testimonials and stuff. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I know that. Yeah, like it's I think that, example is the school of mankind to a large extent. It's like so when we see it, when you behold something, when you have an experience of this uh true love, then it's impossible to deny like the I never know what words to use, to the I don't know, like that God is glorified or something, it's impossible to not really, I don't know. And also I think another thing that comes to mind is music, like I think music really aids in this process, because it helps you encounter it, it helps you encounter uh it is such a lame word to use, but it's like, it helps you to participate. It's like you sync up with the music. And um I think
Yeah.
that that's very
I
powerful.
I heard one testimony of a
Summum
guy.
bonum. Sorry.
There was a guy who was a rapper, and he was like, and he had been given a vision of a, like, he was at an event, and there was a rapper who, as he was singing, the doing his rapping, there were like demons coming out of his mouth and going into the people, and then
Whoa.
the people, their behavior all started changing, and like the women were becoming more provocative, and the people were starting to fight, and it ended up
Wow.
escalating into a mess of
Yeah.
violence
I'm
and
reminded. Yeah.
and so he wanted to decided to create good music, but
Yeah.
this is there is some spiritual warfare in music, these.
Yeah. Well, good music is kind of who decides what good music is. Yeah.
Well, there's a, I guess in the Bible there's the, what comes out of your mouth is what defiles you. But yeah, I've hit on this a few times, and like the media corporations and the people who decide what music we listen to and what movies we watch and what the things that we get to consume. And there's this question of the powers and principalities and how they can really have an influence. Um, that's all spiritual warfare. And because it's back to what Jesus said about that which comes out of the mouth is what defiles you. I think he was telling, some legalists about, it's not so important about what you put into your mouth. It's more important what comes out of the mouth.
Hmm.
So, but now we have technology. So we have a huge megaphone.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, well, what do you think about spiritual warfare? Do you think we should be out here like fighting the demons, attacking the darkness and such?
I mean, I think, yeah, at every moment, but not, it's like, but I would say I'm doing it with my wife and my children and trying to do it with my neighbors. And
Mhm. Just by
uh,
like, yeah, by it goes back to what we were saying about example and like how do we speak about this stuff that's so hard to speak about. I think it's like to just be holy, like that is what, but it's like the guys in the monasteries are like, those are the tanks like holding down the fort, like in a metaphysical way, even though they're not moving. It's like like that is the true spiritual warriors, because I don't know if I would say exactly that, but it's like the people who are truly holy, in their life. And
it's
like I remember, and I forget who I heard this from originally, but an individuated uh bartender can like change the world, and it's like
yeah,
um
but who is, like, who can't be holy would be the question,
yeah,
right? It's like when we look at people, gotta be careful about.
well, I think
I
everybody
know
can
that
be
my past
holy.
self, yeah, my past
Yeah.
self would
Yeah.
did the elitism thing. It's like, and the
Hmm.
like the hiding place was the book that I read before I had made my decision, and it was that there's stories in it. Like the saint is someone who loves everyone up to and including their enemy, and so the hiding place has some saints. The story I told about the guy who went to court and was willing to give up his house, that to me that's like a saint. So these saints that know God and are and know unconditional love and are um, incarnating that unconditional love into the world are doing a lot of good. Uh,
Yeah, man.
you don't
Yeah.
even, and you can't know how much good because you can just really shape those. There's ripples going out everywhere, uh, beyond your capacity to see. Uh,
Hmm.
like we know that happens, but we don't know how far it reaches. We don't have the
Yeah,
eyes
man.
to see how far it reaches.
Yeah.
But it's not going to do bad. If you do it right, I don't think it's going to cause harm. I don't think
Mhm.
it's going
Well,
to hurt.
yeah, I agree. But yeah, like there is a lot of ways where it could go wrong. Like you'd imagine like people trying to do good things, making things worse in the end, you know. And it's like
But
it's not my will, it's thy will. It's like, to do those good things. It's like the people who are truly holy are not being
So
holy. It's like holiness is happening there, and it's like they are participating
so
optimally or
there could be
something.
a way of like forgiving the murderer who, and then that person ends up going and harming other people, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Like
but then I'd spin it on you and say that every person who gets harmed by the murderer is an opportunity for someone to express love in that situation as well. It sounds, it's like that's kind of the way God works. Like God created Satan. God create like, we don't live in a world just without darkness and without pits. So it's
mhm. Yeah. Well, I mean, taking it a little down from like the saintly, because I can't really speak to that. I'm not necessarily qualified, but like I like to attack the darkness sometimes,
yeah.
and in the sense where it's like, but in so doing, I think it's just something that I'm not really like it's more like just me um trying to, I don't know. It's very hard to speak about, but I'm trying to think about examples where it's like the videos on my channel where I'm speaking about uh certain things that are like very bad or like, at least, ultimately everything is rooted in the good as you're saying, but it's um
I guess
like
there's a question. Do you attack the darkness by exposing it?
yeah, I mean like that's kind of the thing. It's like it's an act of love to like, hey, did you hear about this thing that maybe if you knew about would be like,
Well, I mean, I've like I've got a story where like my wife and we've been trying to track. That's my young one. She's angry. She's tired.
oh,
I might
you
have to
wanna
step away soon.
yeah, that's all good. I mean, I would love to pick up some other time,
That's what
man.
happens. We start talking about the darkness, and then that's what happens. But yeah, to that point that I wanted to make just prayer. Like I said, I've been trying to just. I'll be in a parking lot the other day, and I'll just be trying to love people, like just love them, and then I'll see people turn around, and just smile at me. It's like it's wild.
Yeah,
So
man. For real.
I
Yeah.
need to probably go
I've got
down and try to love my 3-year-old.
yeah, got this this is Jonathan Peugeot's Saint Christopher. That's what's coming to
Cool,
mind.
cool.
But
I do
gee.
need to step away and help
Yeah,
out.
man. It's been a pleasure talking to you again. I'd love
Yeah,
to
I was glad to
continue some more
reconnect for
time.
a little bit. Yeah, we should do it again.
Man.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Absolutely. Thank you as well.